All right, guys, I want to do a quick video to talk about gearing and progression in Ravendawn. We're going to go over infusions, stats you care about, all that stuff. So whenever we're dealing with our character, we want to look at stats. We want to see the type of damage we're doing. I am currently a spellcaster, so I mostly care about spell power. This is your main damage stat. Weapon power, you're still going to get from attack power. And that's really going to go into your auto attacks, right? So when you use a staff, a scepter, or a light blade, your auto attacks are going to scale with your spell power. For light blade, it's whichever is higher because it's adaptive, but staff and scepter are always going to be spell power in your auto attacks. So this is the main stat you want to increase. Now, there is a soft cap for spell power, weapon power, all that stuff. It should be 7 times your effective level, right? So if I eat my buffs over here, we'll see I go into my soft cap, right? But it's a very soft cap, right? So even if I'll even put my weapon stone on, so we'll go higher. So see, I'm at 350 and the soft cap is taking me down 1 point. So it's still very worth it to over dump into one stat. Now, as we get more stats later in game, tier 4, tier 5, whatever, all that stuff, this soft cap is going to hit harder, and maybe then we'll want to balance our stats a little bit more. But as it is right now, pump everything you can into your damage stat, whether it's intelligence or might, whichever one you're doing. And then whatever you have left over should probably be going into vitality so you can just stay alive and tank. So whenever you're looking to buy gear, I want you to look at what you're actually getting, right? I bought wisdom on this, and I bought wisdom on this, dex on this, and dex on this. The reason I did that is because people don't price these stats very high. But the secondary, the green number, spell power, that's what I care about the most. So as long as a secondary attribute is green, that means it's going to scale with your infusions, right? The same with your orange stats. So a T4 isn't going to have any extra spell power than my T3, even if it does roll spell power. The only thing it's going to have is an extra primary attribute to go up, and people are charging way too much for intelligence and like vitality, like a stat that I would care about. So when you're going for your gear, make sure you're focusing the secondary attribute you want the most, either spell power or weapon power. Haste and mana regen, impact, precision, those are all good if you can't find the other stuff, but I would still go for weapon power or spell power as your primary. And then whenever you're applying your stats, again, 7 times your effective level is what's going to dictate the soft cap. It's not that much of a cap. Feel free to push through it. Always be focused on your attack power and your defense power. These scale down into your spell power and weapon power. And I believe defense power goes into your spell defense and weapon defense, right? So any type of gear that gives you attack power, right? Weapon power, these are all good for you, even if you are a spellcaster, because it's going to go down here, right? Weapon power goes onto my auto attacks. Not the worst stat to have. When you're looking to progress your gear, you need to make a choice whether to go up a tier or to just infuse the current tier. So right now where I'm at T3. I should be going to T4, but people are charging way too much for T4 on our server. So it's actually more beneficial for me to just infuse my T3 further than go for a T4. Okay. So whenever you're looking on the market, focus on the secondary attribute, not the primary. As long as the only bad primary for me would be might, because I don't really do physical damage, right? I could still get some benefit from it, but I'd rather have any of the other stats. So whenever you're looking to buy things, sort by the secondary and just, try to make the best decision based off that. The other important thing when you're gearing up is to do your ranger boards. The ranger boards are very important because, as you can see, I hit rank 6. I get 8 intelligence on a ring with 10 mana regen. So make sure you're doing your ranger boards and going for trinkets that are going to help your specific build, right? All right. The other thing I wanted to talk about with progression is you need to make sure you're working on multiple things in the game. I mentioned ranger board. I mentioned infusing your gear and getting the right tier of gear. You also want to make sure you are doing reputation in the game, because some of these reputation benefits are going to affect the strength of your character. Like you have cooldown of trinkets, you have the stats of your rings, the stats of amulets, you have stats from your main and offhand equipment. A lot of these are very important. So if you want to make your character stronger, make sure you're doing your reputation. How do you do your reputation? It's going to be from talking to random NPCs and choosing dialogues, doing quests, And then the shinies you loot in the world actually give you like 20 to 50 rep a pop. Those are very important. Make sure you're getting all the shinies in the world that you can find. And then the last type of progression that you should already know about is your skill trees. Make sure you are leveling your off archetypes, because these give you skill points even when they're not slotted, right? Even when they're not slotted, these are going to give you extra skill points and extra attribute points. So make sure you are leveling up your other arc trees whenever, you know, you have time to level them up with a stronger school. Make sure you're doing that as well. Regarding the weapon you use, right? As I mentioned before, if you want to do spell power, you have light blade, you have scepter, and you have staff. Now, the other important thing is that certain weapon types will roll certain stats more, like clubs will roll heal power and stuff like that. So it's okay if you want to be a healer and your weapon is a physical weapon and it doesn't scale off spell damage, because it might have rolled healer like stats on it, right? The last part of our gearing and progression guide I'd like to talk about are infusions. Infusions will drop from mobs you kill. As you progress through the game, they're going to drop stronger infusions. These infusions are worth more. You also, as you can see, some are soulbound. Those come from quest rewards. Now, whenever you're progressing your gear, if you put it in here, you can see by adding infusions how much it's going to cost. I believe it's a flat rate of 2 silver per XP. I think that's just how it goes. So, you know, the more XP you're going to put into it, the more you're going to pay. Pretty straightforward. And then you can see what it's going to upgrade to when you go up 1 tier, right? You can see that we're going to go from 6 wisdom to 8, 6 spell power to 7 spell power, and 1 defense. Whenever you're upgrading your gear, like we talked about earlier in the video, you know, looking at T4 stuff, looking at T3, just make sure that, you know, it could be more worth for you to just infuse your gear to the next rank instead of going to T4. But each tier we go up, we're getting like an extra secondary or an extra primary attribute. So these are big upgrades, but only if you get stats you actually care about. Also, say, let's take these out here. Let's say for whatever reason you wanted to switch gear, you know, say you were going from cloth to plate, or, you know, whatever it is. And if you take it off over here, you can actually throw your already infused gear into your new gear. Keep in mind though, you're not getting any benefit from this except for the fact that it's not going to cost you silver when the item's already got some infusions in it. And but that's really the only benefit. Honestly, you're getting rid of this gear. For me personally, you know, if I'm getting rid of my set of T3 and I would say I was going to T4 and I was getting a bunch of new gear, I probably would just sell my old T3 because the stats on it are so good. It would feel bad to kind of consume it, which is something you need to be mindful of. If say you wanted to do your own crafting, you're going to have to craft new pieces of T3 to use as the ingredients for T4. You wouldn't want to craft with your infused piece. So just make sure you don't do that, or you have it in your inventory or something. Wouldn't want you guys to mess that up. But the infusions are really straightforward, and it really just comes down to personal preference, right? Like, can I afford this gear upgrade? If I can, I should probably do it. It's going to make me stronger. It's going to make me kill things quicker. You know, ideally you want to infuse your gear whenever you can. As you can see, I'm a little strict or tight with my money when I should probably put more into my gear. I recommend you guys don't do what I do and infuse your gear as quickly as you can. And as soon as you upgrade to the next tier, you can always just throw it into it if you want to. So there's no reason not to infuse whenever you can, unless, you know, you're breaking the bank.